I previously made video that talks about a quote from Shakespeare, or it says, "The evil that men do lives after them. The good is often interred with their bones." And I'll just go into this whole thing about my views on that. And I realized I had another quote in my caliber of certain quotes that I like, and it comes from a show called True Detective Season 1. It's about these two detectives. One of them is going through a morality crisis, based on some decisions that he's made and the people that he affected in his life. And with him having the guilty conscience that he is enduring, he asks his partner, "Do you ever wonder if you're a bad man?" And the partner responds, "No, I don't wonder. The world needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door." And, I thought about that. I was thinking about that today for a good while. And, just thinking like, what does that mean to be a bad man, but you keep other bad men from the door? And I'm gonna try to pair this up with some other ones. There was another one from the artist Neo, where he says, in order to be good or do good, you have to know what it's like to be bad, to be a bad man. In order to be a good man, you have to know what it's like. And then there's another quote I'm going to pair with this, where I think it's an ancient quote, where it says, "What is a bad man?" Wait, how does it go? I think it's, "What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? And what is a bad man but a good man's job?" I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, but I know it kind of fits into that. It kind of fits into three of these, but primarily, the world needs bad men because we keep the other bad men from the door. What does that mean? It can mean a lot of things. And I think that the only way that bad man can be at that door to keep other bad men out is they have to know what it's like to be in the depths of a misguided youth, the decisions that they made, and what else? Yeah, the decisions that they made, the people they've hurt. There's a lot of things that man that is at that door has went through. There's a lot of pain that they have put out, and there's a lot of things that they have endured themselves that they kept internally within themselves. And at times it can be unfortunate to where people are consumed within that for a very long time, and they try to find ways to escape. They try to find a scapegoat, whether it's drugs or any kind of addiction, anything to get away. I was always told that the reason why certain groups of people kind of move around and travel and migrate is because they have to, or otherwise the guilt catches up with them. So they always have to have a new beginning somewhere. And I guess it's like because they have to leave, because otherwise that what they are or what they have been will start to set in, wherever they are, wherever when they are settled. So they got to move. They have to see new things. They have to see a new territory. They got to, everything has to be different. Otherwise, if they stay stagnant where they're at, then they're going to start to remember everything, But, people that sit there that remember everything, for some of them, like I said, they travel, they go all around. Some of them, they stay within that. They stay within that anguish and that turmoil. And then you got some who sit there with it and they let it simmer, and they observe it. They look at the source. They look at, what made these instances in their life, like what made it happen that way. What were the contributing factors that made them make these decisions? And those are kind of like the people that we have to, we got to acknowledge. Those are the people that we have to look at and be like, we believe, that this person has found the formula of the mishaps and the inconsistencies and the cycles of trauma that they have been exposed to in their life. And they do these things, they do these extreme things as a cycle, triggering things, you know what I'm saying? Those are the people we got to look at, because they were able to go into their mind. They were able to, dig into the archives of mental, of the mental memories. And they were able to pinpoint the source for a lot of things within their lives that made them the way that they are. And there's a crucial point. There's a point in their lives where when they find this, when they see this, right? There's a crucial point where they acknowledge everything that they came from and everything that they've done. And with that acknowledgement, they can continue down that path, and it could lead to a destruction based on, whatever they can't let go of, whatever they can't grow from, whatever they're addicted to, and they go down that path. Or the other side, that fork in the road, that other side leads them to a path where they can grow and they can understand and they can be vigilant, okay? And they know that once they start that healing process and once they depart from the things that they've done, then they can start to own the integrity that they may crave or they may desperately need. Because I'm telling you right now, people need integrity. You cannot, I'm sorry, but for most people, even for me myself, like, you cannot hold on to guilt. It's impossible. And you have to find someone to talk to. You got to. Please, I implore anybody to do that. Please. So that bad man that is at that door, or that bad person that is at that door, that acknowledged everything, that pinpointed, that had that self-reflection, that had that moment of solitude and seen everything for what it was, is at that door. And they keep the ones that don't, they keep away the ones that don't want to acknowledge. They keep away the ones that don't care, that will still continue down that path of destruction and will destroy everybody around them. They keep them away. But the ones they look for, the ones that can go through that door, are the ones that acknowledged everything and seen it for what it was, and is trying to grow and is trying to, gain back that integrity and keep it, the ones that's really trying to do right. That's who they hold the door for, right? But the ones that just out there, they just don't give a fuck. Those are the ones that they got to look out for. And they got to know, okay, that's a wolf. Okay, let me keep them away from the flock. And this is not no religious context at all, It's just more of a symbolic thing when I talk about the wolf and the flock. Please don't get it twisted. So I think that man or that person that is at that door, that is this conduit between, protection and, the people out there that just want to destroy and watch the world burn, they got to be there. That's an important role. But then they also have to find people like them. They have to find people that they have to find people that need to be spoken to the right way. And the only way that they can speak to those people is if they understand. You know, they have to be able to understand certain decisions, certain things, certain, you know, walks of life. They have to be able to understand that in order to connect to that person. They got to. You know, it's almost like a, you know, student and a mentor, man. Like, hey, you know, I know what you've dealt with. I've been there. I truly have been there. And I can't tell you enough about what I know about myself. And I can't tell you enough about what I may believe is similar to, you know, the things you've been through. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this. You know, is this the path that you want to be on to become a better person? Or, you know, is there something that you can't let go of? You know, if you can't let go of it, if you want to keep to it, then I can, you know, I got to keep you away. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not ready yet. You know, you're not ready to cross over yet. So I got to keep you away, man. You can't, you know. But if you're ready to cross over, if you're ready to stay on that path, that narrow path, and to keep to that path and to not veer off, you know, and then we can talk about it. You know, we can support each other, be there for each other. You know, we gotta, if we need to speak, you know what I'm saying, if we're going through something, you know, but we got to be able to keep each other on that path, because if not, it's gonna be hell, right? So that's the role of that bad man that keeps the other bad man from the door. You got to know where you come from. You got to. It's not just, oh, I'm from such and such city, from such and such neighborhood, and graduated from such and such class of whatever, and I have this friend and that friend. No, it's not that. When I say you got to know where you come from, I'm talking about life, man. I'm talking about the earliest childhood memories that you can remember. The first time that I mean, everybody can remember the first time that they cried, but, you know, it's those memories. It's the ones that stick to you, the ones that are, you know, like the earliest memories of some life-changing shit. So when I say you got to know where you come from, you got to look deep. You got to look deep. You got to be willing to look deep. You have to. And I know for some people it's difficult. I know for some people they block a lot of shit out. And it's hard to have that stability, but you got to be willing to do it. Now, going on to that Neo quote about, in order to be a good man, you have to know what it's like to be a bad man. You know, it's kind of like the same thing. You know, it's the same thing. It's the fact that, like, hey, man, like, I am, like, I've been there, and it's got to get to a point where, in order to be a good man, in order to even be that, in order to consider that, let me just say good person, because I don't want this shit to sound sexist or misogynistic or whatever. But, you know, in order to be a good person, like, the first step is automatically just, you know, acknowledging, you know, again, where you come from and what led you there. But then at the same time, like, knowing, like, you know, this shit gotta end. I've done everything that I needed to do that didn't have me aligned with, you know, the right things or the good things. I've done enough of that shit, and I'm done. I don't want to do that. So let me do what I haven't done. Let me do what is foreign to me. Okay, let me do what is a challenge, because that's what matters. That's what's probably going to keep me on that path of you know, keeping that integrity, you know. So in order to be a good person, you got to know what it's like to be a bad person. You got to. I mean, you know, you just can't be a good person and not know what it is to be bad. It's impossible. It's impossible, you know. And it's not really black and white. It's not night and day. There's a silver lining. There's a gray area in between. Because, objectively, there's no definite, objective understanding of good and bad. Okay. And what I mean by that is, like that rail car problem where, if you switch the rail car and it's going one way and, you switch it another way, on one side of the rail, you have 5 people that are tied to the track. And, the rail car may kill those 5 people if you let it go down that path. But then on the other rail car, on the other side of it, you got a dead end. It's like a big fucking wall. And on that train, on that rail car, you have a whole city of people. So what are you gonna do? Are you gonna let the whole city die, or are you gonna sacrifice the life of those 5 people? So it's kind of like that, So there's no definite to good and evil. And if you really want to explore that, I recommend that you read Plato's writing called Euthyphro, where Socrates and Euthyphro, they have a talk about good and evil. And that's where we get the Euthyphro dilemma, I believe is what it's called, where Socrates asks, let me see. I'm not going to pluralize it. I'll just keep it singular. He just asks, does God love something because it is good, or how does it go? Does God love something because it is good, or is it good because God loves it? There we go. That's how it goes. That's the dilemma. And I'm going to say it again. Does God love something because it is good, or is it good because God loves it? And that's what you got to kind of think about. Again, there's no entire full understanding of good, but then there's no entire full understanding of evil. And that's another view that I truly believe. I truly believe that there is no limit to how much good you can do, but at the same time, there is no limit to how much evil can be out there. There is no limit. I mean, come on, man. Look at, Epstein. Look at the Holocaust. Look at, the human trafficking. And it's so much. It only gets worse. Like it's almost like collectively, and I'm not saying all of us, but it's almost like the whole fucking global consciousness of the world. It's almost like it has to one up it every fucking generation. I don't know if it was worse in the past. I don't know, because you had people that could say anything and they could execute a whole city just because they believed there was witches. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that was some other shit. But I'm talking about now. It's like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy that we can't believe that these things happen, but they do. So there's no limit to good or evil. So like I said, it can't be objective. But that is not for any of us to fully understand good and evil. It's not our destiny. Okay, it's not our purpose to fully know good and to fully know evil. I'm gonna tell you that right now, because if you think that that's what you're supposed to do, you're going to spend a lifetime of a lot of stress and a lot of worries that you don't have to concern yourself with. You're going to be so worried about what to avoid because you want to stay on the good path, and you're going to be so worried about, like, you're going to be worried about staying on the good path, and then you're going to be worried about falling off of the good path. You know, man, you know, I don't think people they don't need religion to be a good person. They don't. When you look at how all of this shit came to be, with the councils of Nicaea, and you know, the Protestants and the Catholics and Islam and all it, man, it's so much. It's so much. It's a controversial history. I mean, it's simplified now. It's easier now, but you don't need that to be a good person. You just need to be around people that are, you know, just genuinely, I'm not going to say genuinely, but people that just, you know, they want to be good people, okay? We need to be around that, okay? No judgment, nothing like that. Just, hey, man, you a good person, I'm a good person, you know? Because we don't know what's after this. Don't trust in a book. That last quote, that ancient quote, what is a good man but a bad man's teacher, and what is a bad man but a good man's job? I still gotta figure out what that one fully means. I've been sitting on this for like 5 years now. Somebody once told me that. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher, and what is a bad man but a good man's job? I still got to let that marinate. But, yeah, man. We need people we need people that have been through their own spiritual battle. I'm not talking about no religious stuff. I'm talking about their own spiritual battle, their mental, the mental welfare, the emotional welfare. People that have been through a lot. You know, we need those people. We need those people that have went to hell and back, and they have no plans on going back. And they are here to keep hell away from getting into what they're trying to protect. You know? That's what we need.